DC here. Hi, guys and gals. Hey, it's Sunday morning, and yes, coffee vlog. hmm. Hope you're all well and you had a good weekend. It has really cooled off here. Let me see. We're in the one single digit, at least in the morning for the temperature. This morning I got up, it was only 4 degrees Celsius. So, that is, well, that's cold. What is that? That's 4 degrees Celsius. Is that, it's I say around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Today, this morning, it is something like 6 or, no, sorry, I said 4, but yesterday was around 6. Yeah, anyway, but weather is changing. It's normal. It's September, and we shouldn't complain. We had such hot weather. It's kind of nice to have cool weather again and a little bit more rain. Yeah, so what is going on over here? Well, I was almost going to say not all that much. Yesterday we didn't have the kids over. They were under weather, keeping the theme. So they didn't come over. We had I'm talking about the grandkids actually, because we had second son of DC came over and we had a meal. You know something? It's nice every now and then, to have a one-on-one with one. I like to have the whole group together, but at the same time, every now and then, it's just nice to have just one of the kids. And so we took a walk after having had a meal and chatted. It was nice. It wasn't anything particular, but it was good. Over here in Europe, I suppose it's the same in North America, but over here in Europe, of course, as soon as you turn on the English-speaking television, I say it that way because over here on our internet, because our television is provided by our internet provider. It could be cable, but it's pretty much all the same. And on the English stations, so BBC and so on, it's pretty hard actually right now to get anything else but programs related to Queen Elizabeth. And I don't mean only the live feeds, but because there's a lot of that as well, but documentaries and so on. It's actually quite interesting. I mean, I know that a lot of people, especially from where I come from in Canada, where I come from in Canada is Quebec. There's a lot of newspapers that are very negative around the monarchy, but I kept thinking like, well, if they've been pulling out their articles, from 40 years or 50 years ago, I mean, nothing was new. Anyway, so I just passed by those, but that is another story. Yeah, I'm looking up, Mrs. DC is actually still sleeping. I don't hear any noise, so I'm kind of quiet. I got up this morning, did my readings, and did one exercise on the Duolingo, sort of Spanish. No, I did three lessons in the Spanish course, and trying to see if I will move up into the other league. I mentioned that yesterday in the vlog. But anyway, we will see. And I might be getting some waffles ready slowly. I looked up a recipe, and I was just wondering how it is with you guys. I mean, I used to have, I still do, loads and loads of recipe books or magazines or stuff, but all around cooking of every type. And ever since the internet came out, I could almost put it that way, it seems that cooking books have become superfluous because the internet seems to be the largest cooking book in the world. And I realize every now and then it's kind of nice to go back to an old recipe. And then you realize, I say it's nice, and then you realize that actually that recipe that you're going back to is anyway online and easier to find than to go through your old cooking books. I guess that's, just part of the whole thing. It's like people will say, I don't like to read Kindle books because I like to read real books. And I get that, but at the same time, I don't, because if you're reading, um, what's on the Kindle is the same thing. Now, I agree. There's a certain difference in the ease, and the whole paraphernalia thing, of holding a book and smelling the paper and so on. I get that, but the Kindle can have larger fonts. You can't do that with a book. You have to bring it closer or have bigger, like a magnifying glass or glasses and so on and whatever. I mean, how are you reacting to that? I mean, I know some of you don't read that many books. I've heard it in, different logs. But if you're given the choice between reading a book or having it on your Kindle or on your pad, I do say on the iPad or a tablet, because I don't find it fun reading from the computer. I'll admit that much. Um, but the whole way of looking for things has changed so much. And like I was saying, you're looking up for a recipe. I know I've got some books that are there that if I need to find something quickly, I know which ones to go to. But there are other recipes which I've done like over the years, or let's say I want to do something I did like 10 years ago. And I'm thinking like, where was that? And like I say, I just have so many. Many years ago, when I was in the beginning of my scientific career, uh, we'd have to go and search for things in the abstracts. We call it the chemical abstracts, for example, in the case of chemistry. And that was like rows and rows of books in the university library. And first off, usually you would try and find a topic that you were searching for. There were different ways of searching, but then you would have the abstracts. And so you would find via the topic, there would be different references. From that reference, you would find the actual journals and so on. And very often what you found was an older version. So you would go to what they would call the citation index, which was another book where you would find who made citations of such and such articles. And it was basically I was almost going to say a detective show, when you had all the students, going around from one thing to another, trying to find the best way of doing, let's say, a chemical reaction or something else. And then came the internet. And the way of searching, actually, even before the World Wide Web, internet as we know it now, we did have the online tools that already started to exist, databanks that existed within companies or within associations, and we would have these light pens. Most of you probably wouldn't even know what they were, but we had terminals, and we would have light pens kind of, and we would make our chemical drawings on the light pens, and these would go and search on enormous data banks somewhere, and they would bring us back references. So it was already then, but then of course we still had to go and get the paper versions. Of course, and as with all newspapers and so on, it became everything online. Now, library in the company doesn't exist anymore. I mean, where I used to work in the pharma company, there is no library anymore. Everything is online. So, the world has changed, not only for recipes, for the way we work, but you all know that. I mean, but how do you react to that? I mean, do you still like, if you're doing, I don't know, anything in the kitchen or something, do you still like to go back to your recipe books, or your mom's recipe book, for example? We have the 5 Rose cookbook that came from Canada, which is 5 Rose flour, and things like that. Do you still use these old recipes a lot? I know Mrs. DC actually does for a lot of things, but I have pretty much kind of gone to the online version, and I see the time. And nevertheless, and that's where the hypocrisy comes out, I print them out. And I keep them. And so Mrs. DC will tell me, you have the same recipe 5 times, or something like that. And that's because I'm too lazy to start searching for it, so I just find it again and print it. Tell me about your your way of doing things in this. Anyway, I see the time. So DC signing off. Thanks for being with me with this coffee vlog. Take care.